Thank you for tuning in to Tanaka TV, the best and future biggest fight channel on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that like, that comment, that subscribe button. We're trying to get this channel to over 2K by the end of the year, but this channel cannot do that. We cannot do that, people, without your support. So thank you for those who support this channel, and thank you for those who will support this channel in the future. I truly appreciate it. Now, we're going to talk about a little bit of what Dana White said about Jon Jones and Islam Makhachev, and kind of who is the pound for pound king, who is the true pound for pound king. Now, before we get into that, let's listen to his statement. Let's take a look.
What would it take for him to surpass Jon Jones in your mind for that pound for pound number one?
I mean, when you think about what pound for pound really means, right? He fought Volkanovski, who's a weight class lower than him. Jon Jones beat everybody at light heavyweight, then beat the best heavyweight in the division like it was nothing at a higher weight class.
So, I mean,
Jon Jones is absolutely positively the pound for pound best fighter in the world, probably the greatest fighter of all time in any sport. When you talk about who's the baddest dude in the world, you put two guys in a room and who walks out, Jon Jones walks out of the fucking room every time. No question about it.
yeah, and in no way trying to diminish Jon's accomplishments, but like, you know, but he's fought once in the last however many years. Islam's fighting multiple times a year, defending. So like, at what point does activity outweigh, Jon's?
Beautiful. I like that you asked that question. Let's talk about activity. 3 years off. Nobody, not even Ali, nobody's ever come from 3 years off and looked the same. Jon Jones walked through the heavyweight, the number one guy in the heavyweight division, like it was nothing, with 3 years off. Yeah, Jon Jones is the best ever. Ever. And when I say ever, I mean in any combat sport. He's the best ever. You throw Jon Jones in a room with anybody, Jon Jones walks out of the room.
So, obviously, Jon Jones was extremely happy to hear what Dana White had to say, and Islam was just kind of whatever. He appeared to be kind of whatever about it. But my viewpoint on what Dana White said, I would have to agree with him. I think Jon Jones is the undisputed pound for pound king, and I think it's going to be extremely hard to take that spot from him. Yes, he's had, 3-year layoffs and things of that nature, but you cannot take away Jon Jones and his ability to be consistently dominant. And prior to that 3-year layoff that he had, he fought pretty frequently, and he went against the toughest of the toughest division. He's gone through multiple generations of fighters. Let's look at who Jon Jones has fought, because it's been many men. Okay, and I can name a decent amount of them, but I don't want to overlook any of what Jon Jones has accomplished in the octagon. Okay, so we're going to start with him fighting Mauricio Shogun Rua. Okay, he fought Mauricio Shogun Rua, and his reign started as a champion in 2011. We are in 2024. This man has been consistently the champion for almost 15 years in the UFC. For almost 15 years. And yes, again, he's had the layoffs, and he's had his problems, but nobody has beaten him in order to take that belt away from him. So in my book, he's been champ for about 15 years. Okay, so he beat Mauricio Shogun Rua, he beat Quentin Rampage Jackson, Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, Vitor Belfort, Chael Sonnen, Alexander Gustafsson, Glover Teixeira, Daniel Cormier, OSP, Daniel Cormier, Alexander Gustafsson, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes, and Cyril Gahn. It's going to be very hard for you to convince me that anybody besides Jon Jones is the pound for pound, undisputed pound for pound king in the UFC. And like Dana said, he could be the greatest combat athlete of all time. And that's a huge statement, right? because we've had some very dominant combat athletes that have come through, not just the UFC, but in boxing and MMA as a whole, kickboxing. I mean, the list goes on. Muay Thai. He's saying that, like, he could be more dominant than what? Buakaw. He could be more dominant than Sinchai and Muhammad Ali and Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson. He's got all of them beat. Because, I mean, let's really be honest. The true definition of what Dana White is saying is you put him in a room one-on-one with anybody on the planet, and they go hand-to-hand in combat. The likelihood of Jon Jones walking out and the other man not is extraordinarily high. And okay, you can say that Jon Jones and his antics outside the octagon make him an unlikable person. Okay, but that does not take away his greatness inside of the octagon. And this is no hit on Islam, right? This is no hit on Islam Makhachev. But Islam has not done even remotely close to what Jon Jones has done. Would you even put Islam over Khabib in the pound for pound all-time list? Would you put Islam over George St. Pierre? Would you put Islam over Daniel Cormier? Would you put him over Amanda Nunes? And we're talking about all-time greatness, right? Like, I know Dana White made the scenario of whoever steps in the room with Jon Jones is not going to make it out. I'm also looking at this on the side of accomplishment and what they've done. And he mentioned a little bit of that. He said that, he had a 3-year layoff and he comes in and he fights, the number one guy in the heavyweight division and he steamrolls him. That is huge to say, because who has really done that? Moved up a weight class, because I know George St. Pierre, he had that long layoff and then he came back and he beat Michael Bisping, but he didn't move up a weight class to do that. It's hard to take. It's hard. It's a hard argument for you to convince me that Jon Jones isn't the pound for pound greatest of all time. It's a hard argument, people. It's a hard. Comment down below what you think about Dana White and his statement on Jon Jones being the pound for pound GOAT, because I'm gonna have to agree with him. I think Islam needs to do way more to even be in the talks. I think Khabib is still ahead of him, to be honest, in my head. I think DC is still ahead of him. I think Amanda Nunes is still ahead of him. He has some work to do. And congrats to him. He just had a phenomenal win against Dustin Poirier. It was a very competitive fight. I definitely don't think it was a blowout. But he did beat Dustin Poirier. It's hard to get a blowout on Dustin Poirier. But he got that win. He beat Volk. Let's see what else he does with this belt. But he's not pound for pound in my book. And I don't think he's really pound for pound in many people's book. So, like I said, comment down below what you think, people. Who is the pound for pound king in your book? And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.